Starting to bring your attention inwards, focusing on your breathing, noticing how your body is feeling, being aware of any tightness, any tension. If you're feeling a bit tired or if you're feeling fully energized, just being aware and not judging, just noticing, just being mindful of how you are throughout the practice. Taking some nice, full, deep, long breaths. Full inhales, full exhales, all the way in, all the way out. So today we're working towards tree pose. So working on our balance, working on our strength in our legs. It's also a hip opener, so just opening up around the hips. Obviously take some core strength, so doing a bit of core work and opening up across the shoulders. In tree, we're using every part of our body, so focusing on all aspects, but especially around the hips, strengthen our legs, the grounding element of it. So taking a couple more nice, deep, long breaths. And then let's start windscreen wipering the knees just from side to side. So just taking your knees over to the left, to the right, just gently swaying, starting to get some movement into the hips. And then just pausing on one side. And then up and over, pausing on the other. Good. Bringing your knees to center, squeezing the knees into the chest. And then taking our right knee with our right hand, keeping our left knee still, just taking some circles with our right knee. Small circles at first and getting bigger and bigger, opening up the hip. Taking some circles the other way. And then bringing the right knee in, same on the left side, starting small, making the circles bigger and taking the circles both ways. Okay, keeping our right knee in, we're going to extend the left leg out to the end of the mat. So just let the left leg rest on the floor, but we want the toes pointing up towards the ceiling. So engaging that left leg, so it's not just flopping, it's a strong engaged leg. And then we're going to bring our right knee kind of out to the side. So just bring your left hand down onto your left hip, just to keep that hip down on the ground. And then just slowly open up that right hip. Bringing the right knee out to the side, and then let's bring that right foot all the way down to the ground. So the right knee is just kind of flopping out to the side. So we're kind of emulating our tree pose, but lying down. The fallen tree, it's a new pose. So we want that left leg to be strong as if we're standing, toes pointing up to the ceiling. And then the right knee bent out to the side. Place both of your hands on your hip bones, and we just want our hips to kind of feel like they're even here. So we don't want that left hip lifting up off the floor. And this is going to be the same when we're standing. So I just want you to feel that kind of open hip element of the pose. Okay, let's straighten out our right leg. Bring our left knee into our chest, squeeze the left knee in, Strengthen up that right leg, toes pointing up towards the ceiling, so an active right leg. Placing our right hand just on the top of our right hip, bring our left leg out to the side, our left knee out to the side, just guiding it down with your left hand. It doesn't matter how far it comes. And then slowly, just so your foot meets the ground, and then just kind of sliding that foot so it just touches the side of your right leg. Wherever that might be, it might be down at your calf, your knee, your thigh. Just let that left hip open, engage the right leg, placing both hands just on top of your hip bones, and just making sure our hips are grounded, just feeling that openness in the hips. Good. Okay, we're just going to bend up the right leg so the soles of our feet meet, and we're just going to pause a second in our Supta Baddha Konasana. So both knees flopping out to the side, soles of the feet together, hands can come onto our hips, our belly, or down by our sides. And just letting the hips open, relax. You can always put blocks under your hips, your thighs if you need to here. But sometimes it's quite nice just to let the weight of the legs just gently open up. Nice, slow, deep breathing. And then we'll slide the feet out to the end of the mat, bringing the arms up and overhead, coming into our pencil stretch. Stretching out through the toes, all the way up through the body, through the fingertips, and then bending the knees back into the chest, squeezing the knees in. And then we'll rock and roll or make our way, whichever way you like, up to our seated position. So coming into our cross-legged position, maybe cross your legs the other way this time. So whichever leg you would usually put in first, maybe try the other one. See how that feels. Obviously you can sit on a block, any support that you need. Finding our length in our spine. Sitting up nice and tall, relaxing down the shoulders. Let's take some neck stretches. So just dropping one ear down to the shoulder. Semi-circling down and round. Over to the other shoulder. And back again, just pausing where you need to. And then bringing the head back to center. Okay, moving into our shoulders. So we're going to start just moving the shoulders in backward circles. So shoulders up to the ears. And then back and round, taking it nice and slowly. And then we're going to start kind of bringing the arms into it. So really getting into the full shoulder movement. Nice big circles, taking your arms wider and wider. And eventually we're going to be straightening out the arms. So they're kind of at shoulder height, just taking circles, making them smaller and smaller. And then reaching stillness, reaching out through your fingertips. And then we're going to come back the other way. So this time we're going to take forward circles. So start nice and small at your shoulder height. Bigger and bigger. And then as big as you can go. Don't worry about keeping your arms straight, just feeling that full range of movement in your shoulder. And then bringing it back to just the shoulders moving. Good. Okay, lifting the shoulders up to the ears. And melting them back and down. Okay, coming through to all fours. Hands underneath our shoulders, knees underneath our hips. Nice wide fingers, remember, so nice stable base. So spreading out the fingers, really pushing down through all parts of your hands. Coming into our cat-cow, so warming up the spine. Taking our gaze forward, belly down to the ground. And then into our cat pose, arching the spine up towards the ceiling. As we inhale, we come forward. And as we exhale, we reach up. So taking this movement in your own time, following your breath, just noticing how your back is feeling. Being mindful of any niggles. Okay, taking a couple more rounds, nice and slowly. And then we'll all meet in our neutral spine. So finding our flat back, engaging our core, so pulling our belly button back towards our spine, feeling our kind of the abdomen area really firm up. Pushing up through the shoulders, pushing up through the hands, so nice engaged arms. We're going to stretch our right leg out behind us, so coming up to hip height, pushing back through the heel. And you can just take a little sneaky peek down along, kind of underneath your body, just checking that you can see your toes. So you want your toes pointing down towards the floor. You don't want your leg up too high, so just at hip height, keeping the hips even. And then we're going to bend that right knee, bring the right knee up to touch the right elbow, trying not to move the rest of your body, and then straightening out that right leg again. So we're going to do that 5 times. So 1 more, and straighten out. Number 3, knee to elbow, and straighten out. And again. Last one. Trying to get as far up as you can, then straightening out the leg. Okay, lowering the right knee down. Same on the left-hand side, so stretching out that left leg behind us, taking a peek down, just making sure you can see your toes, toes pointing down towards the floor, stretching out through the heel, and trying not to sink into the lower back here, so really pushing up through the core area, pushing up through the shoulders. And then trying to keep the rest of your body nice and stable. Just moving in that left hip area, bringing that left knee all the way up just to touch that left elbow. Straighten out. And again. Straighten out. 1 more, oh no, 3 more times. Straighten out. And again. Last one. Nice and high. Straightening out the leg, and then lowering that left knee down to the ground, taking a pause in child's pose. So bringing our knees wide, and let's come into child's pose kind of mindfully. So we're going to push through our hands to push our hips backwards. So really kind of use that strength in your arms to push your hips back and down. If you do need a block or any support between your hips and your heels, please do so. And then we can just slide the hands forward on our mat. Really slowly, so sliding, feeling the extension through your arms, through your armpits, keeping the kind of the weight back in your hips for as long as you can, and then lowering your head down to the mat. Just watching your shoulders haven't crept up to your ears, so we always want to keep our shoulders away from our ears. Even though we're extending through the arms, we can still keep our shoulders back and down. So just kind of mindfully coming into a pose where usually, you know, we might just kind of sink into it. Just really paying attention to how our body is getting into it. Lengthening through the spine. Lowering the head down, using a block for your head if you need to. And then we can rest our arms onto the mat, shoulder distance apart, hands still facing forward or slightly in. And then taking some nice deep breaths here, really feeling your belly as you inhale and then fully letting go as you exhale. Okay, slowly lifting up your head. Coming back up to all fours, but leaving our hands where they are. So we're going to come into a half plank pose. So maybe just moving our knees slightly closer together, so they're hip distance apart, and then bringing your weight over your wrist. So shoulders above wrists, knees hip distance apart, feet hip distance apart, nice and strong through the torso. So lowering the hips slightly, strong half plank pose. And we're going to do a few half press ups here. So coming into our chaturanga position, so strengthening up the arms. So we're just going to lower, maybe not even halfway down, but we're going to really keep the elbows squeezed into the body. So lowering down nice and slow with control, and then slowly pushing back up again. And again. You do not have to come all the way down to the mat here. It really doesn't matter how far you come down. But really keeping those elbows squeezed in, shoulders away from the ears, firm core, firm torso. Maybe do a couple more. It's really working on that arm strength, that upper body strength. Okay, good. Coming back up, tucking the toes under, lifting the hips up nice and high. Let's come into our down dog. Stretching out the backs of the legs, paddling out the legs. Lifting the hips nice and high. Pushing down through the hands. Just taking any movement that you need to in your first down dog, maybe coming up onto your tiptoes. Taking the weight into one foot, then the other. And then looking forward, we're going to walk ourselves up to the front of the mat. When we get to the front of the mat, we're going to take our feet really wide, so the full width of the mat. So the outer edges of your feet are right on the edge of your mat, toes pointing forward. Coming into our ragdoll, so we can either hold onto our elbows, we can have the hands down on the mat, but really bending into the knees. We really want to get into that hip crease. And we're just going to kind of sway from side to side. So letting the head hang nice and heavy. Just taking a really nice, gentle, flowing movement. And then letting the hands come down to the mat. If you've been holding onto your elbows, we're going to keep our legs wide, uncurl all the way up to standing. When we get there, reaching the hands up to the ceiling, nice big inhale. And as we exhale, we're going to come back down, this time keeping the legs nice and straight. So coming into a straight-legged forward fold. If you do have blocks, then by all means use them to prop up your hands if you need. Or if you have anything else that, books or anything else that you might need if your hands don't quite come to the floor. But really firming up these thighs, firming up the legs, really strong, straight legs, hinging from the hips. You can even just bring your hands down to your shins if you want. Just finding your forward fold. We're going to stay here for a few breaths, so really lengthening the backs of the legs, firming up the thighs. Strong, strong standing legs. Nice, slow, deep breathing here. Keeping the thighs firm, just noticing if the kind of grip on your legs relaxes, firming them up again. Good, okay, bending into the knees, just wiggling the feet together just to hip distance apart. We'll come into our halfway lift, so reaching forward with the crown of the head, finding your flat back. And then exhaling down to the mat, hands come to the floor. We're going to step out into our full plank pose, so both feet up to plank. Then lowering down to the mat, either knees first or lowering all of your body down at the same time, keeping those elbows squeezed in. Inhaling into our back bend, our cobra. Exhaling down and pushing up through hands and knees, tucking the toes under, downward facing dog. Taking a look back at your feet, making sure our heels are kind of hidden behind our toes. Hands shoulder width apart. Maybe slightly broader than your shoulders is also fine. Straightening the arms, melting the heels down to the floor, whether your knees are bent or straight. Then looking forward, stepping or walking up to the front of the mat, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhaling all the way up to standing, reaching up to the sky. And exhale into our Tadasana, mountain pose. Okay, one more of those. Inhaling up. Exhaling down, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands come to the mat, stepping out to plank. Lowering down, squeezing those elbows in, using that upper body strength. Inhaling into our back bend, shoulders away from the ears. Exhaling down, pushing up through hands and knees, tucking toes under, downward facing dog. Okay, optional three-legged dog. So if you want, you can lift your right leg up to the sky. And then we're all going to step our right leg forward. Nice big step forward. Lowering the back knee down. Coming into our low lunge. Sweeping the arms up high. Shoulders away from the ears. Right hand comes to the right hip. Left arm up and over. Finding that side stretch all the way down the side body into the hip. Into the side of the left leg. Back up to center, then into a little back bend, reaching back with those left fingertips. And then bringing the left hand all the way down. Right fingertips up to the ceiling, into our twist. Then we're going to bring the right hand inside the right leg. Wiggle those right toes out to the side of the mat, and the right foot's going to point out at a 45-degree angle. So coming into our lizard, we're just going to take a little bit of a wiggle here, so just circling the hips. Again, we can go both ways, circle both ways. And then pausing in our lizard pose. So you can either stay up here on your hands, you can use blocks to come down onto your elbows if you want, completely dependent on the flexibility of your hips. But just finding your lizard pose. Staying here for a couple of breaths. Okay, option here, keeping that right leg exactly where it is, so the toes pointing out to the side. You can tuck those left toes under, tuck the back leg under, lifting that back leg up from the floor. Sorry, if you're not on your hands, then come up onto your hands if you've been on your forearms. So lifting that back leg up from the floor. And then again, we're going to reach our left fingers up to the sky. It's a nice strong lizard twist here. You can always have that back knee lowered if this is too much, that's absolutely fine. And then lowering that back knee, bringing our right knee, our right hand just onto the inside of our right thigh. We're just going to open up that leg so we can come onto the outside edge of the right foot. And again, just kind of finding your opening. So we don't have to push too hard with that hand, just encouraging the hip to be open. Good, bringing the right hand back down to the mat, tucking the back toe under, sweeping that right leg up and back into our three-legged dog, and then back to our downward dog. Some nice deep breaths in our down dog. Inhaling for our strength, exhaling to soften, maybe releasing the neck, releasing the head. Okay, left side. Left leg comes up, optional three-legged dog. And then everybody step our left foot forward, nice big step forward, low lunge. Dropping that back knee down to the ground, inhaling up. Extending through the arms, shoulders away from the ears. Left hand comes to the left hip, right arm up and over. We're coming back to center, coming into our little back bend, just reaching these right fingertips back. And then right hand down to the floor, left fingertips up to the sky. Bringing the left hand inside the left foot, wiggling the left toes out and having our foot at a kind of 45-degree angle again, coming into our little wiggle, so just circling into the hips. Taking the circles both ways. And then just finding our lizard pose. This side might feel very different than the other side, so just being mindful of how different your hips might be. So just finding your opening, your stretch, breathing into it, using any props you might need. Okay, if you're down on your forearms, bringing yourself back up to your hands. Optional extra here, tucking that back toe under, lifting up that back leg, and then everyone reaching that left hand up to the sky. Lowering that back knee now down, bringing the left hand just to the inside of that left thigh, and just opening up that left hip. Maybe coming onto the outer edge of that left foot. And you can still kind of turn the chest up towards the ceiling, still coming into a slight twist here. Okay, bringing the left hand back down, tucking the back toe under, sweeping that left foot nice and high, lifting the hips up high, and then back into our downward dog. Taking our gaze forward, walking, stepping, hopping up to the front of the mat, into our halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhaling, sweeping all the way up to standing. And exhaling into our Tadasana. Taking a pause here. Rolling the shoulders back and down, having our hands in our prayer position in front of our heart center. Really kind of pushing through the hands. So again, this is quite active, and pushing through your hands will help to open up the chest, squeezing the shoulder blades together, and then pulling the shoulders back and down. Softening the face. Grounding down through the feet, strong through the legs. And then we're going to wiggle our feet together. So squeezing the feet together, squeezing the legs together, bending into the knees, coming into our Utkatasana, awkward chair pose, sweeping the hands down and forward. Taking a check down at your feet, pulling your knees back behind your toes, tucking the tailbone under, seeing if we can go a little bit lower. Then coming back up to standing, we're going to lift our right leg first, coming into our balance, reaching the arms up, lifting that right knee nice and high. We're going to step back into our high lunge. So just wiggling that foot back if you need. Through into our warrior two, pivoting on that back foot. Bringing the hands to the hips, turning the left toes in. So both toes facing the same way, coming into our wide-legged forward fold. So hands on the hips, folding from the hips, trying to keep the legs straight if we can. Bringing the hands then down to the floor underneath our shoulders. Firming up the thighs. If you want to wiggle your feet a little further apart, that's absolutely fine. And then maybe walking your hands back between your legs. Just using that to kind of help guide you down into your Vida, your wide-legged forward fold. Bringing your hands back underneath your shoulders. Then to your hips, nice big inhale, lifting all the way up to standing, turning your left toes out back into your warrior two, cartwheeling your hands down, stepping back into our plank position, vinyasa, lowering down to the mat, strong through the arms, inhaling into our back bend, and exhaling, pushing up into our downward dog. Lifting the hips up high, really using that core to pull those hips up even higher in space, melting the heels down towards the ground, really opening up the backs of the legs, and then looking forward, walking or stepping forward up to the front of the mat, inhaling into our halfway lift, exhale, forward fold. We're going to wiggle the feet together if they're not already together, squeeze the legs together, coming back into our Utkatasana. Seeing if we can sink a little lower this time, keeping the weight back in our heels, reaching out through our fingertips. And slowly coming up, this time bringing our left leg up with us. Stepping back with our left leg into our high lunge. Warrior two, pivoting on that back foot, hands come to shoulder height. Bringing the right toes again in line with the left toes, both toes facing the same way. And we're just going to wiggle the feet a little bit closer in and have our feet at a 45-degree angle, so towards the kind of corners of your mat. Coming into our goddess squat. So opening up the hips, we don't want our knees to be collapsing inwards. So really pushing outwards with your knees as you come into your squat, lowering down. You might just need to rearrange your alignment, that's fine. Bringing the hands into our prayer position. Trying to keep length through the spine, so really tucking that tailbone under. Reaching up with the crown of your head as you ground down through the feet. As we inhale, let's straighten our legs, reaching up into our star. And exhaling back down into our goddess. Again, reaching up into our star. Exhaling down into our goddess. One more time. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. Strong legs here, just settling into our squat. Grounding down through the feet, reaching up through the crown of the head. The legs are shaking, that's good. Keep going. Okay, straightening up the legs, reaching into our star. We're going to wiggle the legs a little bit further in than we were before, but keeping that same alignment, so toes slightly pointing out. And this time we're going to bring our hands down. We're going to come all the way down into our Malasana squat. So feet are probably just wider than hip distance apart. If you need a couple of blocks or something to sit on here, that's absolutely fine. And again, if your heels are lifted, that's completely fine. Just finding your squat. Maybe bringing the arms inside the legs just to help open up the hips again. Still trying to find that length through the spine, so pulling the shoulders away from the ears, reaching up through the crown of the head. Some nice deep breaths here, breathing into that hip area. Okay, releasing the hands us down to the floor. We're just going to wiggle the feet together. Coming into a little ball, maybe just giving yourself a little bit of a hug, just dropping the head down onto the knees. And then we're going to uncurl all the way up to standing, so bringing the hands down to the floor, straightening up the legs. uncurling yourself up to our standing position. Okay, so we're going to come into our tree pose now. So we're going to bring up our, in fact, it doesn't really matter which leg, but we'll do our right leg first. So standing leg, left leg, and we're going to bring up our right knee first. So really strong left leg, really grounding down through the left foot, firming up that thigh. The kind of stronger the leg, the easier it is to balance. So we want this as strong as possible. Slowly lifting up our right knee, squeezing that right knee in. Bringing our left hand just to our left hip, bringing this right knee out. So similar as we did when we were laid down. We don't want this hip to be swinging, this left hip. So keeping that left hip back. And then we'll find our tree pose. So lots of options here. We can bring our foot down to the side of our ankle, just resting the foot on the side of the ankle and the toe on the ground. We can bring the foot up to the calf, or we can bring it up to our thigh. If you're bringing it all the way up, we really want to be pushing that foot and thigh together really, really strong. So this thigh needs to be really firm, the foot is really pushing against it, and that pressure will help kind of lift you up and keep you stable. So just have a little bit of a play around, just find out where your balance is. Trying to keep these hips open, just watch that knee isn't kind of collapsing, and really actively pushing outwards with that knee, wherever you are, whether it be on the ankle, the shin, or the thigh. Once we have our balance, we can reach up to the sky. Don't worry if you fall, don't worry if you're wobbling, it's completely fine. Just have another go. Strong standing leg, firm up that thigh, grounding down through the foot. Good, okay, and release. Okay, give my legs a bit of a shake. Same on the other side, so it might feel very different this side. Quite often our balance is great on one side and not so great on the other. So, firming up this right leg, grounding down through the right foot, strong right thigh, lifting up that left knee, squeezing the left knee in. Just finding your balance, maybe taking your gaze to one focal point can really help, something that's not moving. Bringing our right hand to our right hip and opening up that left leg. So just watching this right hip's not kind of collapsing out, pulling the right hip in, really finding length through your leg into your hip, all the way up through the crown of your head. And then let's find our tree pose. So again, bringing your foot down to your ankle, your calf, or all the way up to your thigh. But wherever it is, let's really concentrate on opening up that hip. So feel like there's resistance on the back of that left knee that you're pushing away. And remember, if you're having your foot up on your thigh, squeeze that foot against the thigh so hard. And then when you have your balance, reaching our arms up. Again, pulling the shoulders away from the ears. Finding length through the spine. Softening the gaze. Strong through that standing leg. And relax down. Good. Giving our legs a shake, just making our way up to the front of the mat if we're not there already. We'll make our way down to the mat for our warm down, inhaling up to the sky. Exhale, folding forward. Inhale into our halfway lift. Hands come to the mat, stepping out to plank, lowering down with strength, with control, inhaling into our back bend. And exhaling up, downward facing dog. Last down dog, so really making it a good one, pushing down with your hands, up through the arms, lengthening the spine, up with the hips, and then melting down with the legs, with the heels. And then we'll step forward into seating. So just one leg, then the other. Coming through to seated. And we'll bring our legs out in our tentative position. So kind of knees following the line of our feet in a diagonal. Bringing our left arm down inside our left foot, reaching up and out with our right hand. So just coming into a gentle twist. Option here to take a bind, so we can just snake that left hand underneath the left thigh, bringing the right arm round, clasping onto those fingers. And then using that mobility in the hips to really kind of get into the hip and then twist round, so opening the chest up towards the sky. And releasing wherever you are. Back to center, other side, so bringing the right arm down, left fingertips up towards the ceiling. And then option here to take the bind, so just snaking that right hand through the right thigh and bringing the left arm round to meet it. And again, just using that mobility in the hip, the pressure between the arm and the leg, just to open up the chest. Releasing your hands or coming out of the twist, keeping our legs wide, starting to straighten out the legs. They don't need to be fully straight here, it's absolutely fine if they're not. We don't want our legs too wide, so if you have got really flexible hips, maybe just bring them in a bit, kind of at a 90-degree angle. Finding a straight spine here, so watching we're not curving into our back. So just sitting like this might be enough. Pulling the toes back towards you again, firming up the legs. If you want to bend the knees, you absolutely can. If the hamstrings are tight, that's completely fine. And then just having a bit of a play around. So if you want to come forward, coming into a bit of a wide-legged forward fold, we can do. If you can hold onto your feet, you can reach and hold onto the feet and then use that to bring yourself forward, or even onto your ankles, your shins. And then maybe once you're there, you can maybe slide the heels out a little bit, straighten the legs a little bit more. Just finding your stretch, finding your wide-legged forward fold. Wherever you are, trying to keep the spine long. So watching we're not curving into the back, maybe just coming out of the stretch a little if we are, and finding that space in the spine. Okay, slowly coming out of your stretch, bending the knees, bringing the feet together, and just curling over your thighs. So finding a nice curve in the spine, relaxing down the legs. Bringing yourself back up to seated, and then uncurling down to lie down. So reaching forward with our hands, slowly curling down the spine. So you lie down on the mat once we are there. Pulling the knees in towards the chest, taking a little rock and roll from side to side. And then we'll take our figure 4 stretch. So placing the left foot down on the mat, right ankle comes over the left thigh, and then bringing that left thigh in towards you. Keeping our feet active here again, so toes pulling back towards the knees, just protecting our knee there. And then we can use that slight pressure between our right elbow and right thigh, just to keep that kind of thigh and knee pushing away from us to get a really good stretch into that right hip. Nice, slow, deep breathing. Using your exhales to release any tension, softening down. Releasing your hands, bringing the left foot down to the mat, right foot comes down to the mat, and crossing the left ankle over the right thigh. Same on the other side. Keeping those feet active. And trying to keep your spine, your back, your shoulders all on the mat. So if your tailbone is lifting or if your shoulders are lifting, maybe you don't need to be holding your thighs so close. Just come out of the stretch a little bit. Just making sure your back is fully supported. Okay, releasing down. Both feet come down to the mat. And then we'll squeeze both knees in, extending the left leg out. So right knee into the chest, left leg out, resting on the mat. Coming into our twist, so bringing that right knee up and over. You might just want to shimmy the hips over to the right hand side a little bit as you twist round. Sometimes that helps come into the twist. And then extending our right arm out at shoulder height, taking your gaze over your right fingertip. Maybe closing down the eyes, softening down the face. Releasing as you exhale. Where can you soften? Where can you let go? Slowly bringing yourself back to center. Bringing that left knee in, extending the right leg out, squeezing that knee in. Coming through into your twist again, maybe just shimmying those hips over to the left as you come into your twist. And then bringing your arm out beside you, taking the gaze over towards those fingertips. And relaxing, softening into your twist. Seeing if there's any tension you can release. Just losing your exhales just to allow it to soften. Slowly bringing yourself back through to center. Bringing both knees in. And then bringing your feet flat to the floor. Just finish with a couple of bridges. So just realigning, just making sure your spine is nice and straight, nice and long. Bringing our feet quite close into our sit bones, but hip distance apart, and keeping our knees hip distance apart as well. Hands to the side, palms facing down. Okay, let's tilt our pelvis up to the floor, up to the ceiling first, just lifting our pelvis off and then peeling our spine up and off, all the way up to our shoulders, nice and slowly. Pushing down through our feet, stretching out that front body, then lowering back down, vertebrae by vertebra, inch by inch, all the way down. Tilting the pelvis first and then peeling the spine off. Maybe reaching a little bit higher. And then lowering back down with control, nice and slowly. One more time, tilt the pelvis. Peeling up and off the floor. Pushing down through the feet, lifting the hips even higher. And then lowering all the way back down. Hips meet the floor. And then stretching the legs out, coming into our Shavasana. Bringing the feet nice and wide, bringing the arms nice and wide, palms facing up towards the ceiling. Just snuggling the shoulders together a little bit, opening up the chest, maybe giving your feet a little bit of a shake, your hands a little bit of a shake. In fact, your whole body a little bit of a shake. And then just relaxing down. Taking some full deep breaths here, and with your exhales fully letting go, just feeling your whole body just melting into the floor as you exhale. And then just letting your breathing return to normal. Nice, soft, gentle breathing. Just feeling your whole body melting into the floor. Imagining the earth, the floor is actually pushing up to support you, so you can fully release down into it. Just noticing each point of contact with the floor, from your feet, through your calves, maybe the backs of your knees, your thighs, your glutes, your hips, all the way up your spine, your shoulders, the backs of your arms, the back of your head. Feeling heavy through all of these points of contact. Letting the rest of the body fully soften, fully releasing. Letting your head feel really heavy. Softening the face. Relaxing any tension around the forehead. The eyes, the jaw. Softening the tongue. Just letting any thoughts that appear just drift off, bringing your focus back to you, to your body. Is there any tension you can let go? Any tightness you can soften? And then we'll start bringing some movement back into the toes and the fingers, the wrists and the ankles. Moving into your pencil stretch when you are ready. And then bringing the knees back into our little balls, squeezing them in, maybe having a little rock and roll from side to side. And then coming to rest on your right or your left side in your little fetal position. Taking a big full inhale here and just sighing out, exhale. And then pushing ourselves back up to our seated position. Again, maybe crossing our legs the other way to how we would normally cross them, just to see how it feels. Rising up through the spine, reaching up through the crown of the head. Softening the face. Lifting the shoulders up to the ears, nice big inhale. And exhale, melting back and down. Bringing the hands into our prayer position and blinking open the eyes. Thank you, everybody. Namaste. I hope you have a wonderful evening and a wonderful week, and yeah, hopefully see you again this week. Thank you so much.